Blended Podcasts. Brought to you by Blended Audio.
What does a healthy, balanced lifestyle consist of? How should you eat? What exercise should you be doing? How many hours of sleep do we really need? Does too much water flush away all your vitamins? Should it be high carb, low fat, or high fat, low carb? The more research you do, the more confusing it gets, because there is so much information out there, and there are so many conflicting opinions. So how are we supposed to know? Stick around to explore the different approaches to health with us, physically, mentally, and emotionally, and let's try to figure out together what the heck being healthy really means. I am your host, Hazel Priscilla, and this is your weekly dose of Feed Me Honesty. Hello, conscious creatures. You are so welcome on this channel, and we thank and applaud you for prioritizing your health and for educating yourself. As promised, since we previously recorded an episode that was specifically for the ladies, we are back to serve our male listeners by focusing on men's health today. You all already know Dr. Junaid, and I've decided we're officially on a first name basis with him now, so I'm not going to introduce him again. Dr. Junaid, welcome back, and I'm sorry for making you work while you're trying to take a little time off.
Thank you for having me back. It's always a pleasure being in studio.
So this week we're going to do things a little bit differently. We want to make the show a little more interactive, and that's why we made posts online to get our male listeners to actually send in questions that things that they want to know about men's health. Cool. So I have a few questions here for you that you're going to answer, but I think before we start that we need to read a little disclaimer.
Yes. The content is not intended to be a substitute for professional medical advice, diagnoses, or treatment. Always seek the advice of your physician or other qualified health provider with any questions you may have regarding a medical condition.
Cool. Is that it?
Yes.
Thank you very much. Are you ready to jump into the questions?
Okay, let's hear them.
Okay, so the first question we got is, what types of health screenings can I do myself without having to go to a doctor?
Okay, so traditionally, we kind of look at a lot of the physical examinations that you could do at home, but I think for today's show, given that we are a lot more metro these days, we'll be looking at two aspects of this. One would be the traditional one will be kind of like a modern man type of thing. So the first traditional one that we're kind of looking at is belly fat. You want to be checking your centimeters around your tummy. If you see that there's an increase in weight, but it's predominantly just around your tummy, you should possibly have that checked out to see if you are pre-diabetic, if you're heading in that direction, if you're finding that there are any accompanying signs and symptoms, loss of libido, erectile dysfunction, anything like that, please go consult with your doctor. Check your heart rate as well. Try and do this as often as you can, especially with smartwatches. Everyone's kind of tracking the BPM at the moment. Yeah. So it's kind of cool. It gives you an idea, like, I'm more or less 60, 65 BPM, and now suddenly
when I'm resting in a resting state.
Yeah, but now suddenly I'm going up to like 80 or 90. Clearly, there's a change. Yeah. You need to investigate what the change is, why the change is there. Could be stress, could be something that's physically wrong as well. So it's always important to check that out.
And I think, is it that your heart rate is lower while you're resting the fitter you are?
Yes.
Is that true?
Yes.
So when should you start to worry when it's like on the low side? I think as athletes like 30 even can be 30 BPM per minute. Am I right? Am I wrong?
It depends. It's slightly higher. There are some athletes that have dropped down. Lance Armstrong is one of them with a really, really low heart rate.
Is that still safe and healthy?
Essentially, yeah.
Okay.
But again,
if you're not fit, then that's okay.
If that's your usual heart rate, and that's what it's been, and you've been tracking that, you've been perfectly fine, and that's what you've been tracking for the last 10 years, 5 years, or whatever.
You're gonna be okay.
That's your heart rate, and that's perfectly fine. But typically, we're looking at pathologies that are kind of below 60 BPM and above 100 BPM. Mm-hmm. Then we kind of try and investigate.
Okay.
So 60 to 40 is kind of like a safe zone. But if you are typically at 60 and you're suddenly finding yourself at 80 or 90 for a prolonged period of time, I'm talking about like a good couple of days, couple of weeks, that's been your average BPM.
Have it checked out. And on the high side, when you are exercising, what's the highest that you can almost push yourself? Does it depend how fit you are?
It depends entirely.
What's the highest that you've heard of? Is it over
I
200?
have a patient that's ridiculously fit, and when she's out running, her BPM is 200 plus. And that's normal for her. It's been like that for the last 15, 20 years.
Okay, wow. So, and then there's a second screening that you can do at home? This is the second one. The first one is the belly fat, and the second one is the heart rate.
Third one, if possible, is blood pressure check. If you have a cuff, please check that out. If not, try and at least, if you know that your dad, your mom, your siblings have high blood pressure, keep an eye on it, because it's something that is easily monitored, but it has massive repercussions if your blood pressure does go up. I mean,
and it's something that's quite common these days. You hear about it a lot.
Especially in men. We're living in a high stress environment. Blood pressure is going to go up.
Yeah.
So it's good to kind of monitor that to prevent any kind of stroke or cardiovascular accident, any kind of hemorrhage or,
So what count should you be looking at? What's normal? Or what blood pressure count? Is it count? What is normal? Does that also depend on a lot of things?
Yeah, some people are 120 over 80, some are 110 over 70. It just kind of depends. Like, I would say if it's below 100, 110, like there's low blood pressure, there's going to be a problem, but you need to do it consistently. So you need to check it like twice or thrice.
Not just once and then you're like, oh my goodness, there's something wrong with me.
Because your blood pressure will vary on a phone call that you might have on your way to your doctor's office where you got some news. Your blood pressure is going to be high. Like there's all sorts of different elements to your blood pressure and different things that would be pushing it up. So important to check it, and if it's consistent over 3 sessions or 3 times that you check it, it's safe to say that, you could have high blood pressure, you could have low blood pressure.
Rather consult a doctor then.
Yeah.
Low blood pressure, I've heard that can be healthy. Is that just a myth? But it's healthier to have low blood pressure than it is to have high blood pressure, or
it's healthy to have normal blood pressure. Okay. Low blood pressure can be a problem also, because you'll end up quite fatigued, you'll be heavy, you'll want to sleep all the time, you'll be fainting, you'll be dizzy, and often it happens at any time. I mean, you can be going up a flight of stairs, changes your blood pressure, and you get to the top stair and you become dizzy, you fall down the stairs. Driving, heavy machinery, The other one, which is also quite important, is the testicular cancer check. Okay. So it's going to sound really weird, but you actually want to be inspecting your testes. Yeah. Preferably after a shower, when the scrotum is kind of relaxed. Okay. But you kind of just want to feel each individual testy. You want to feel if it's exactly the same. See if you feel any lumps and there, any changes in shape, any changes, if there's any sensitivity, any pain. Keep monitoring that. Try and do this at least once a month. Early diagnosis is really important. And the peak age for testicular cancer, ironically, is between 15 years old.
Oh my goodness.
And about 37.
Shoo, that's very young.
Yes, it is.
That is very, very young. And I think people don't go for these tests because they're so shy. But I mean, being shy for, is it not even 30 minutes for the consultation, or dealing with a disease or passing away from it? You can take that 30 minutes.
Maybe to the patient that's going in, because oh my God, the doctor's going to see me. The doctor, it's
the doctor does
just
it literally all the time.
It's not even a thing. It's it's so mechanical. It's really not a thing. The other thing that we need to look at is oral cancer and gum disease. HPV in men, especially oral HPV, is on the increase, so you want to be looking out for any kind of tumors that you might see in your throat, especially just kind of behind the tongue. You might start seeing little white heads, or you might kind of see fleshy growths inside the throat. That is a problem. You need to go. While the lesions itself don't cause problems, but eventually they might close the airway, they might put pressure on the trachea as well. Okay. And it is a cancerous kind of virus, so it's something that you definitely do want to be checking out. And the last one that I really want to touch on is skin cancer. Inspect your body, see if there are any moles, kind of see if they're changing shape, if they're becoming crusted, is hair growing out of them, are they starting to itch, are they starting to bleed? If so, go in, get it checked out. Yeah. Skin cancer is highly prevalent in men, especially South African.
I just wanted to say, especially in South Africa.
Yes, it's really, really high, especially on the ears. Yeah, ears.
Because they don't
nose.
have hair that cover their ears like we do.
Yeah.
Well, most don't.
Yes.
Okay.
So important to check out, especially if you're someone that's outdoorsy, you do a lot of water sports, you definitely do want to check that out.
Check that out.
And then the more modern,
Screenings that you can do
Yeah.
at home without having to go to a doctor.
it's actually not screening per se. It's the little things like, it's like making time for yourself to actually do the self-care that you need to do that we explained in the first part.
Prevention is better than cure.
Exactly. And do more things that you actually like doing.
Yeah.
Like, we live in a high stress environment where, work is everything and then your family is everything, and you don't really have time for yourself. And
Yeah.
when you're young, that's fine. You can kind of get away with it. But as you age, it becomes much harder to do.
Yeah. And I think with men, like we also talked about self-care and stuff with the women, and it's easier for them sometimes to do, although they have like as little time. It's like, doing face care or things like that is pampering yourself, whereas if a man do it, he might feel less manly, or it's like that idea of what
Society
a man should be.
does that.
Yeah,
They'll
men
kind of be
doesn't.
like, a man will be like, now I was checking my skin for melanomas or for skin cancer or something.
They'll make fun of you.
Yeah, another guy will be like, oh man,
Yeah.
we don't need that. No,
Yeah.
you'll be fine. Like,
We're
it's
men,
really
we're macho,
Yeah,
we're untouchable.
we'll be fine.
Yeah, but I think that is
times are changing.
It is changing,
Yes.
and it has to change. So
100%.
be the change.
Exactly.
And do it for yourself. You're not doing it for anyone else. You don't even have to talk about what you're doing.
Yeah.
You just do it. No one has to know.
100%. Number 2 is to engage with other people. Like, go out there, make time to meet up with some of your friends or your family members. Maintaining meaningful relationships has been shown to positively influence mental health, especially in men.
Okay.
Men we powwow creatures.
Yeah.
While we can be solitary, we do work well in a team or in a group, or there's kind of like almost like friendly competition also.
Yeah.
It gives you different perspectives on whatever issues or problems you might be having. It might give you comfort. Like, you might be like, what, I found this mole and it's kind of like a little bit weird. Your friend might tell you, oh my God, I also had one, like, went to the dermatologist, but I happen to be fine. You should go have that checked out.
Yeah.
Now you feel comfortable in doing this because, hey, your friend told you it's okay, and now it's okay.
Exactly.
So that is really important. And number 3 is to be cognizant and to embrace your physical and mental health. These are the pillars of self-care. From kind of, like we mentioned in the first one, the physical, but to look at the mental symptoms, like how stressed are you feeling? Are you a little bit snippy when you get home? Are you a little bit short with your partner or your kiddies when you come back from work? Are you a little bit more aggressive? Are you sleeping properly? Are you eating properly? Are you training? Are you burning off the excess cortisol that your body's creating under the stressful environment? Depression, anxiety is huge in men, but it goes largely undiagnosed because, it's a sign of weakness.
It's
We don't
normal,
do this.
all men feel this way. And there's a lot of more pressure on men in society. And you'd think like it's different now because there's so many feminists and they're like, we're all equal. But I do feel men still do have a lot more responsibility in the sense of they have to bring home the bacon. They can't get sick, or
100%.
they're the head of the house.
Which actually takes me into the next point. You need to know what your burnout signs are. Whether it is, you're getting irrationally angry at something, you're not eating, you're not sleeping, you're becoming bloaty, you might have weight gain, you might have hair loss, you might start becoming flabby, you might start losing muscle mass, you might have erectile dysfunction, there might be premature ejaculation. These are all signs of burnout. And I know it's become commonplace. If you're over 40, erectile dysfunction is perfectly normal. You will start getting fat, or you will.
Yeah, but it doesn't have to be. It's not normal. It's only normal because so many men have not put their health first.
Exactly.
So now, because all of them did it, now it's normal. But it's not. It's
100%.
not natural.
100%. And the last one is find your passion and connection. Do something that you thoroughly enjoy, whether it's being outside in nature, whether it's going surfing, whether it's playing some video games, whether it's just watching some series, whether it is whatever it actually is that makes you happy.
Yeah,
do that. Make time to do that. It doesn't need to be a half a day or your week or your entire month, but an hour or two out of a 24-hour cycle should be fine. Like, you can even kill two birds with one stone. If you like listening to music and you like being outdoors, put your headphones on, head out, go to a trail, go for a walk, do what it is that makes you happy. A happier you is generally a happier family, it's a happier workplace. You tend to be more balanced. You don't feel like, the world's against me. You actually feel like, I'm in control.
Yeah.
Because you've taken that time to look after yourself. You've taken that control, and that control goes out through the various factors in your life.
Especially if you're the head of a family, like a lot of men are, then you influence your wife and your children and everyone positively, and that just has...
Men have the idea that they're just kind of like the breadwinners, and ladies kind of do the nurturing and the raising, but it's actually not. Like males, and I hope no one takes offense to this, but males are generally the alphas in the family, and even though you get really strong ladies, children generally look up to the dad.
Yeah, you see with children who grew up without a dad, they're more likely to have, behavioral issues at school and act out and stuff like that. Because I even see with our dogs, I get angry at them and I tell them, no, you can't do this or whatever. And then my partner, he just walks in and he just says no, and they immediately listen. They do not listen at me. So he's like, you should make your voice deeper.
They respond to the tone of your voice.
Yeah.
It's not the words that they hear. Like, oh, no, don't do that.
When I get angry, my voice goes up, and that doesn't help at all. They're just like, hello, wagging tails.
Exactly.
Get more excited.
You need a little bit more bass in your voice.
Yeah. We actually watched this comedy sketch, I think it was on Netflix, about feminists. And it was saying, it's just a joke, don't take any offense, but like why, feminists saying, why are men earning more money than women earn? And then this guy, the comedian, was saying that because when the Titanic sinks, for some effed up reason, you get to take the children and, be saved, and I have to stay on the ship that's sinking. Or when there's a spider, or when there's someone breaking in, it's always the man who has to go out and
do this
so
harmful
that's why
thing.
He should earn more money. I thought that was kind of funny because it is true.
Although it's actually not. So ladies have now become the dominant workforce and the predominant economic earners.
But I mean, are they the ones who go out when there's like, I hear something outside, you go check? It's not like, I'll go check, I hear something outside.
Like, no, I'll pay someone to go and do that. Times have changed tremendously.
Probably. You call up one of your, what do you call it? The neighborhood watch.
Yeah.
Like, hello, come, I hear something.
That's the perfect time for you to have less bass in your voice, because that's how you'll convince people to come and help you.
Please help me.
Damsel in distress.
Everything has its pros and cons.
100%.
Okay, I think we're ready to move on to the next question. There were a lot of questions about prostate health, and I'll just read one of them. As a male approaching 30, when should I be thinking about getting checked for prostate issues like cancer, and how often? Should I be scared to go? Is it painful or uncomfortable, etc., etc.?
Painful, no. Uncomfortable, depending on the individual and what their value levels and everything are. Like, males generally feel more comfortable, and it's going to sound weird, but they feel more comfortable with going to a male for prostate exams than what they do going to a female for prostate exams.
My partner was actually different. He's like, I'll go, but I won't go to a man. A man's not going to touch me. Like, I'll go to a woman. I'm like, whatever you need to do, you just go and do it.
That
whatever
used to be
makes you feel more
a
comfortable.
large kind of trend, like no man's going to touch me, and but a lot of men don't want ladies knowing that they have some kind of problem. So if you're going for general screening, it's like, okay, no, I'm fine, I'm cool, lady can do it. But if there's a functional problem, you have urinary problems or you have any kind of pain, they're going to be really, really shy to go to that female, because the female is not going to be able to relate to what is happening, whereas the male can. So to answer that question, if you have a familial disposition, like there's your dad has it, or your brother, or your grandfather, or something, you should kind of go for regular screenings, probably from the age of I would say about 40. If you have kind of symptoms that are leading up to that, or you know that your lifestyle is inappropriate, you have a really large waistline, erectile dysfunction is already apparent, or premature ejaculation is already apparent, you should go and have it checked out, because that's largely linked to the prostate as well. But for most healthy males, from the age of 50.
So that's quite late, actually. To have to start worrying, too much about that.
Yeah, it's something that's
50.
kind of, it's more age linked than anything else. And a lot of the time it's also because we go through a really weird phase, I think probably between about 30 and 50, where we just have a really crappy lifestyle because you got to work really hard, you got to pay for your kiddies' school fees, and you got to do this, and
building your career still and everything.
Then you hit your 50s and you're kind of like, oh my God, okay, life is kind of short.
Yeah.
I need to start looking after my health. I need to start doing all of these things.
Yeah.
So generally that's a good time to start
What's
doing
that
the
one
screenings.
quote? It's my favorite quote about men who not men, like mankind, who waste their health trying to make money and then spend all their money trying to get their health back. That's obviously not like the quote, but it basically comes down to that. And I was like, that's the best quote ever. I love that.
Yeah,
because that's the typical example of how it goes. You work so hard, you make money,
we
you don't
forgo
care
our
about
health
your
to
health.
make a living.
Yeah.
Just to spend all of that living on fixing your health.
exactly.
It's a vicious cycle.
Okay, so you said 40, 50-ish, and you shouldn't be scared. It might be uncomfortable, but just figure out if you want to go to a man or a female. Whatever works for you, just get it done, get it over with. It's quick.
It's relatively quick, and it really could save you a lot of pain, discomfort,
And your family.
medical bills
I mean,
in the
if
future.
there's any disease, if the man has a disease or prostate cancer, obviously it's going to affect his whole family, his children, everyone. So take one for the team.
100%.
Cool. Should a GP diagnose and prescribe meds for psychological issues like depression or anxiety?
Ooh. Relatively loaded question.
I saw a very cool video this week, but I'll tell you about it later. Remind me.
I really don't think so, because often it gets misdiagnosed. And sometimes you give someone the label of you know what, you have depression, and they stick with that for the rest of my doctor said I have
they
depression,
label
but
themselves.
it's actually not. It might have been something with the diet, might have just been the place that they were at in their life.
It's normal to feel more down sometimes, or to...
If you lose your job, you lose your partner, you lose a kid, things are just not going right in your life.
Of course,
no one's going to be happy. You're going to be
depressed.
depressed. You're going to be sad. Something is happening. There's a stimulus.
Yeah.
So once the stimulus is removed, you tend to revert back to your happy-go-lucky positive state.
Yeah.
You're not depressed. There's something that is causing you discomfort.
Yes. It's an explanation for it.
Yes. So GPs, and I don't mean to offend anyone here, but GPs generally don't have the time to actually sit down with the patient, investigate, evaluate what is actually happening. The consult is generally 10 to 15 minutes. Here you go. It's probably garden variety, depression, anxiety. Okay, here you go.
Next.
Yeah. And it doesn't work like that. You really should go see someone,
especially
a psychologist, a psychiatrist, just to be able to get an understanding of what is actually happening. You might be really depressed and you're like, but I have a really awesome job, I have a really cool car, I have a really cool house, and I don't have any reason to be. But then when we investigate, it's I really hate my job. I don't really want to be here. I'm earning good money, but I'm not getting any job satisfaction. I don't like being here. And I hear so often, I have the most perfect partner, my marriage is amazing, everything is cool. And once we break it down, it's
actually...
there's a lot of compromise, and I don't know if this is actually the way I want to be and what it is that I want to do. And so these things, once you start unpacking, they're fine. They've hashed out their problems. They're no longer depressed. They no longer have that anxiety. They're okay.
Yeah.
Move along.
And I also feel like the medication that they prescribe for depression and anxiety have so many side effects. So if it's a wrong diagnosis, for you to have to go through all those side effects, and you can't just leave it, and it can cause more problems than you initially had.
Ironically, most antidepressants cause anxiety.
And
depression, which is kind of
exactly. Yeah, that doesn't
I don't really
make any
see it.
sense.
I don't really get it, but hey, okay. If and for some people they need it. It's a crutch. They need to know that they're taking something to deal with their problem.
Like the placebo effect.
Yeah.
Now I want to tell you about that video I saw. I don't know if you've seen it before. I don't even know who this doctor is, but he was basically saying that psychologists are the only doctors who do not look at their organ. If you go with a heart problem or whatever, like a prostate problem, they look at that organ, but psychologists do not look at the organ. They just like talk to you about your emotions and stuff. So he was taking examples of like a child who has autism, showing his brain scan. Not all people who have autism have the same, brain scan. They have different problems. So everyone should be treated differently. And very quickly there was this example of a little boy, I think he was 4 or 7, and he had like shown very strange behavior with like suicidal and killing people and whatever. And then when they did the scan, it turned out he fell when he was like 3 months old or something, very small, and like that caused him to, give this kind of behavior. And then when they sorted it out, like physically, from the brain's aspect, he turned completely around behavior. And whereas this doctor was saying that if they didn't do the brain scan, he would have gotten like a completely different treatment, saying like, ADHD or this, like all those common things that you treat them for. I'll send that link to you. I wish I could remember who this doctor is. It's very, very cool. And he has like all the qualifications, and he's dedicated his whole life to this. So
just to touch on that with a slightly different aspect, that is kind of true though. Like they discovered, or they were talking about theorizing that the best invention or the best thing to come out of the medical fraternity over the 20th century is patient compliance, is actually getting patients to take their medication to treat them.
Oh.
And from a psychological point of view, it is really interesting to find that why is your patient not complying?
Yeah.
Like your patient is in a state of disease. This is the medication that they need.
And they came to you, like they obviously are.
They're coming to you
yeah.
for a treatment of sorts, but are they really coming to you for that treatment?
Yeah.
Because this is the meds that you need. Here you go. You're going to be A-okay. But now they're not taking the medication.
Yeah.
So why do they not want to be okay?
So
what is actually going on?
There's a problem. They want to be seen maybe, or to, like it's a call for help or a cry for help.
Or sometimes some people are just self-destructive. They don't even know why they are being self-destructive.
Yeah.
There's a huge component, psychological component to health. Probably the biggest component.
Okay, so I think it's time for us to move on to another question. I think we only have time for one more, and then we'll answer all the others online. We're going to do Instagram stories. Yeah. Okay. So if we didn't answer your question today, we promise we're still going to answer it. We only have...
Keep looking at the pages. You'll see it.
Yeah.
We'll post.
Okay, so the other question I have is, according to TCM, what is the healthy amount of male ejaculation per week? Should we be restraining ourselves for health reasons? Also relating to that, there are some Taoist and tantric sexual practices in which semen is retained in order to keep that energy and to circulate it instead of, like, inverted commas, wasting it. And that seems against nature to me. Is that a bad idea? Yes or no? What is your opinion, doctor?
Yeah. What
Loaded
a last question, hey? What
no
a
pun
last
intended.
Question. Okay. So, okay, let me start here. It is only probably over the last couple of centuries where an orgasm and ejaculation are paired together. But for the most part, they're actually two separate things.
Completely different things.
Ejaculation is only supposed to really be used for procreation. So the more you ejaculate, the weaker you are actually making your semen, your sperm sample. So it stands to reason retaining it would kind of make it stronger. So you are, like we said, it's for procreation. So you want to keep your genetics as good and as strong as possible.
When you're like doing it for, I'm creating a child now.
Yes,
like this is the intention.
Exactly.
Okay.
And in doing so, you actually ensure that your child's genetic disposition is better.
Okay. That's very interesting. I've never thought about this or heard about this. I'm not a man, but...
From a Chinese medicine point of view, there's a concept called essence, which is going to take a really long time to explain. But essence is basically, it is something that you are born with. You cannot create it. You cannot take something to give you more essence. All you can do is conserve this.
Okay.
So males lose essence each and every time they ejaculate.
Okay.
Ladies only lose essence through childbirth.
Oh, okay.
So
that doesn't seem very fair.
But ladies lose a much larger volume.
But ladies have to give birth, so I think like that's...
Ladies do lose a much larger volume, and ironically, if you can take care of this particular thing that he's talking about now with the ejaculation, you'll find that males generally age slower compared to females. Because I mean, if you are having an orgasm without the ejaculation part, or you're delaying that ejaculation part, you're actually delaying your aging process as well.
Okay, so there's definitely some truth to this. Is that what you're
100%.
saying?
100%.
It's so interesting.
Yeah, no. So theoretically, the theory is if you are in your 20s, so 20 to 30, you are looking at ejaculating every 4 days. If you are in your 30s, you are looking at every 8 days. If you are going into your 40s, you are looking at every 11 or 12 days.
Is that what you should be, or is that what you just say like normally people do?
That's what you should be.
Okay,
No,
not
no.
more. Are you saying not more than that?
Yes.
Okay.
To preserve your health.
Okay.
Excessive sexual activity or ejaculation does cause health problems. You'll have lower back pain, you might have sore knees, you might actually damage your penis or your testes itself. You put pressure on the prostate. And then you end up with different psychological implications because, okay, I'm heading into like premature ejaculation now, or erectile
I'm
dysfunction.
not performing like I should be, or I used to.
Yeah, so you'll also find the more you ejaculate, the longer your refractory period would be. So the refractory period is basically after you ejaculate, your penis kind of goes softer.
Yeah.
And you kind of, like all the blood is kind of rushing back to where it kind of needs to be. And the process to become erect again becomes so much longer.
Okay.
With frequent ejaculation. So you really do want to preserve
Okay. Some of that energy and not waste it.
you really, really do. Your essence is really, really important.
Okay.
I don't know
Sorry
if I
that
answered
I'm
that
laughing, but
question
I've been very serious all episode long.
I know I had to use the
And
word
you remember
ejaculation so many times for that
remember
question.
well, it's going to be last week for these people, but last month you had to sit through the women's episode.
Yes.
And now you're getting back at me.
But just to add one last thing to that, it is practiced. It was practiced through the centuries. Sufis used to do it. Taoist practitioners used to do it. It was done in Tai Chi or Qigong. It's definitely used in yoga and tantric as well. So it is there, and it's a traditional point of view, but it is there. And if you look at a lot of South African or African traditions, a lot of the African men, and not just South African men, I'm talking about Congolese, Nigerians, etc., a lot of their fruits and their veggies and things that they eat on the daily basis is to enhance sexual performance. Is to actually look after their prostate. And there's a lot of exercises you can do, like ladies do Kegels. Males can do a very similar exercise as well, where they urinate. So as you're urinating, you stop. And you urinate again, you stop. Urinate again, and you
for
stop.
the muscle?
Yes.
Oh, that's cool.
Just by doing that, right? If you can, eventually you'll get to a point where you can contract and relax that muscle without the urination part. But that's just to give you an idea of which
Of how
muscles you're
it's
using,
supposed
just
to
to get that
feel,
brain-muscle connection. But doing that exercise prevents prostate cancer, testicular cancer, benign prostatic hyperplasia, BPH, which is not cancer, but it's the enlargement of the prostate, which happens with age. That causes erectile dysfunction, premature ejaculation, urinary problems, bladder infections. So this particular exercise helps tremendously with that.
Awesome.
You should actually, if you can get control of that mind-muscle connection, you want to try doing this. Is like, and it's going to sound weird when I say 300 times a day.
Oh, wow.
But it's something that you can be doing while you're driving, while you're
go
sitting.
to the bathroom.
Yeah, but I mean,
That's a few times.
you can be sitting at your desk and doing it. You can be sitting in your car, in
At
traffic,
work.
driving to work, doing this.
Anyway, I just quickly want to
Sure.
talk about something I read last night on Helpline. I don't know how true this is, but they say that some studies say that licorice root can aid with the treatment of prostate cancer. Is that true? Do you know about that? I don't think the research has or science has proved it like very well yet, but there has been some proof or movement in that direction.
It will depend largely on the accompanying signs and symptoms. So, for example, you are a really large male. You may be on the obese side. You have diabetes. You have hypertension. You have prostate issues or erectile dysfunction. You don't want to be using licorice. So licorice is going to drive up your blood pressure.
Oh.
So if you are really
really?
hypertensive, it's going to be something
Okay.
that's detrimental for you. Just a
Also, not while you're pregnant, although this is not for the ladies, but I saw that they said you shouldn't be taking that when you're pregnant.
I know the theory is that deglycerized licorice root prevents the spike in blood pressure, but it's not all the time. A lot of people do still spike with deglycerized licorice.
And you shouldn't use more than 75 milligrams per day anyway.
Yeah.
So
and then
be
just
safe with that one.
Touch on one last thing. In my practice, I see a lot of males that come in with like, I want to take this testosterone supplement, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. And it's really not needed. You can create a huge amount of testosterone through your diet and your exercise, especially working large muscle groups. Weighted exercise like squats.
Yeah.
Do wonders for testosterone. And then supplements like zinc, magnesium, ashwagandha, your ginsengs, which everyone kind of knows about. There's a whole lot more. I'll do a post and I'll list the supplements. Saw palmetto is one of the biggest supplements that are used for prostate issues. But just to put this out there, for males with prostate issues, if you are looking at using saw palmetto as a treatment, try and actually get it from the food that you are eating, which is tomatoes. It's the highest amount of saw palmetto and lycopene.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. Because then your body absorbs it better, or how does it work?
Yes, your body struggles to actually absorb the supplement form of saw palmetto and lycopene. So if you're taking fresh tomatoes, if you are taking in, for example, 1,000 milligram saw palmetto supplement, your body is only really breaking down and taking in about 75 milligrams
I think it's the same with oranges. I once had this conversation with a dietitian where it's like your body struggles to absorb vitamin C, or I don't think that's the case. I just think like there's something in an orange that helps with the absorption of vitamin C. So it's like 2 in 1 basically.
Highly, highly, highly possible.
Yeah.
But just even that, vitamin C is not the highest vitamin C fruit. Like everyone's like,
oranges,
vitamin C, oranges.
What is the highest?
Berries, strawberries, huge amount of
and
vitamin
also
C.
just so many other antibiotics and all those other properties. So berries for men
are
and for women.
Not antibiotics.
Antioxidant. Sorry, that's exactly what I meant. Okay, are you ready to say goodbye?
I am, sadly.
But it's Sunday and we're not that sad because we also want to go home.
Sunday, fun day. But this was fun.
This was fun. I enjoyed it.
It's like, fun.
I don't know how much fun it was for me. You probably had more fun. But I'm kidding. I actually really enjoyed it and learned a lot. And I'm very happy about that. So thank you so much for coming in today. You even sat in traffic to get here. So
I did.
Double thank
traffic.
you.
It was
on a Sunday.
Trust me,
I don't know what that was. But anyway, do not forget that you can now find Feed Me Honesty on Instagram. So please go give our page a follow and join in on the conversation. And then where can we find you?
The acupuncture center.co.za or the page
at Acupuncture Center.
Acupuncture Center, Facebook page, Acupuncture Center.
Or if you just want to be friends, Junaid Rahut.
There we go.
Because we're on a first name basis now.
Yes, we are.
Okay. Have a balanced week and remember to be kind to yourself so that you can be kind to others too. See you next week.
Ciao.
Bye.
Bye.
Feed Me Honesty is a South African lifestyle podcast hosted by Hazel Priscilla and Dr. Junaid Rahut and produced with the generous assistance of Blended Podcasts, brought to you by Blended Audio.